2035. Austin, Texas. A 31-year-old entrepreneur starts his workday from a small apartment. No office, no employees, no traditional company structure, just a laptop and a team of artificial intelligence systems working alongside him. One AI agent handles research, another writes code, another analyzes customers, another creates marketing campaigns. A decade ago, a company like this would have sounded impossible. But now, a single person can create what once required an entire team. Across the country, inside a glass office tower, a senior executive with decades of experience looks at the same technology. A strong resume, a respected career, years of success. But something has changed. The skills that built his career are no longer as valuable as they once were. Because the biggest shift in the AI era isn't simply about machines replacing humans. It's about humans using machines, replacing humans who don't. One person is learning how to multiply their abilities. Another is trying to protect the way things used to work. And the uncomfortable truth is, millions of people may not realize which side they are moving toward. Because right now, one of the largest wealth transfers in history may already be beginning. Not from one country to another, not from one generation to another, but from one type of skill to another. And when history looks back at this moment, the biggest question won't be, did AI change the world? The question will be, who saw the change coming early enough to benefit from it? The greatest risk of the AI era may not be artificial intelligence. It may be someone who knows how to use it better than you. And by the time most people realize that, the advantage may already be irreversible. Every major era creates a new rich class. The Industrial Revolution created factory owners. The Internet created software billionaires. Social media created creators. And artificial intelligence may create something entirely different. The strange thing about wealth transfers is that they always look obvious after they happen, never before. In 1995, telling someone the internet would create trillion-dollar companies sounded impossible. In 2007, building a business from YouTube videos sounded ridiculous. But those ideas created fortunes, and history may be repeating itself. The question is, what are people missing right now? Who gets rich during a wealth transfer? To answer that, we need to start with a story. The warning nobody saw coming. In 2014, Facebook bought WhatsApp for $19 billion. At the time, it sounded insane. A messaging app, worth more than some countries' GDP. But what most people missed is what was actually being bought. Not just an app, not just a product, but distribution at planetary scale. WhatsApp co-founder John Kuhn once survived on food stamps after immigrating to America. Years later, a tiny team of just 55 people built something that reached billions. 55. Each person was creating value at a scale that previous generations could never imagine. And that's how wealth transfers work. First they look stupid, then they look obvious. Because the people who build the future are almost always misunderstood before they are copied. The real lesson isn't WhatsApp, it's what WhatsApp represents. The ability to move information instantly across the world became more valuable than almost anything physical. And history has a pattern. Every major wealth shift begins the same way. It looks small, it looks unnecessary, it looks like a mistake, until suddenly it becomes the foundation of everything. And the uncomfortable truth is this: the ability to recognize those shifts early may be more valuable than any degree, job, or title. Because opportunities rarely announce themselves. They arrive disguised as something insignificant, and only a few people realize what they actually are, before the world catches up. 2. Own the audience. While media companies were losing traffic, a creator named Mr. Beast was building something different. He wasn't renting an audience, He was owning one. Today, his videos generate hundreds of millions of views, and his audience has become one of the most valuable assets on the internet. Then something happened. Facebook changed its algorithm. Traffic collapsed. Audiences disappeared. Imagine spending 10 years building a castle, only to discover you built it on rented land. That's what happens when you don't own distribution. And this lesson may become even more important in the AI era, because products are becoming easier to create. AI can already write, design, code, research, market. Soon, creating something valuable may no longer be the hard part. Getting attention will be. The future winners may not own the best products, they may own the audience. Because when everyone can create, distribution becomes king. The turning point. Now, here's where things get uncomfortable. Most people believe technology creates more jobs than it destroys. Historically, that's true. But this transition may feel different. Because for the first time, machines aren't just replacing muscle, they're replacing parts of intelligence. Imagine two accountants, both equally smart, both equally experienced. One uses advanced AI, the other doesn't. The first finishes an entire week's worth of work before lunch. The second spends the week doing it manually. Same intelligence, different leverage. Now imagine that happening across entire industries. And it isn't just a theory. In the 2020s, entrepreneur Peter Levels began using AI tools to build products, write marketing copy, and automate work that previously required entire teams. Suddenly, the question wasn't how many employees you had. It was how much leverage each employee possessed: law, marketing, finance, media, education. Then a strange possibility appears. What if the most valuable employee of 2035 isn't a team of 50 people? What if it's one person with 50 AI assistants? Suddenly the question isn't, will AI replace people? The question becomes, how much output can one person create? Imagine graduating from Harvard in 2035. Your biggest competitor isn't another graduate. It's a 24-year-old entrepreneur. No degree, no office, no employees, just hundreds of specialized AI agents working around the clock. Now here's the uncomfortable question. Who wins? Actually, that's the wrong question. The real question is, how many people can that one person outperform? Because the future may not reward credentials. It may reward leverage. And that possibility changes everything. 3. The one skill AI can't replace. In 2008, most investors rejected Airbnb. The idea sounded ridiculous. Why would anyone pay money to sleep in a stranger's home? The founders heard no, again and again. The information was public. The company existed. The product worked. Yet almost everyone reached the same conclusion. It will never succeed. Years later, that terrible idea became one of the world's most valuable travel companies. Why? Because the difference wasn't information. It was judgment. The ability to see value before everyone else does. History keeps repeating this pattern. Amazon, Netflix, Bitcoin, artificial intelligence. The facts are usually available long before the opportunity becomes obvious. The people who benefit first aren't the people with perfect information. They're the people willing to make intelligent decisions while uncertainty still exists. And that's becoming one of the most valuable skills of the AI era. Because AI can generate thousands of ideas, thousands of business plans, millions of images, endless lines of code. But AI doesn't decide which idea is worth building, which problem is worth solving, or which opportunity deserves years of your life. That decision still belongs to humans. Imagine two entrepreneurs. Both have access to the exact same AI tools. The first asks AI to generate 500 business ideas. The second asks a different question. Which one solves a problem people will still pay for in 10 years? Same technology, different judgment. One creates more, the other creates something that matters. And that's a critical difference, because in a world where creation becomes almost free, selection becomes priceless. The future advantage may no longer belong to the people who produce the most. It may belong to the people who choose the best, because every major wealth transfer rewards the same behavior. Seeing what others dismiss, acting before everyone agrees. and staying committed long enough for the rest of the world to catch up. The AI era may not create fortunes by giving everyone better answers. It may create fortunes for the people asking better questions. 4. When nothing can be trusted. Quick thought experiment. Right now, pick the one thing you trust most online. A video, a voice recording, a photo. Now imagine none of those can be trusted anymore, because that's the world we're moving toward. Imagine opening your phone in 2035. You receive a video call from your mother. The face looks real. The voice sounds real. The emotions feel real. But it isn't her. It's an AI-generated fake, a decade ago. That sounded like science fiction. Yet by the 2020s, reports emerged of employees transferring millions of dollars after interacting with AI-generated voices and video impersonations that appeared completely authentic. But by the mid-2020s, reports began emerging of criminals using AI-generated video and voice technology to impersonate real executives. In one high-profile case, millions of dollars were transferred before employees realized the people on the screen weren't real. Suddenly, seeing was no longer believing. Today, it's becoming increasingly possible, and that creates a problem. When fake content becomes cheap, trust becomes expensive. When anyone can create a convincing video, how do you know what's real? How do you know who to believe? That's the opportunity. Because every major problem creates a new form of value. And in a world flooded with synthetic content, trust may become one of the most valuable assets on Earth. Not attention, not followers. Trust. The people who earn it may control extraordinary influence. 5. The leverage advantage. We've talked about AI as a tool. Now let's talk about something much bigger. Throughout history, every great fortune was built on leverage. A farmer used machines. A factory owner used assembly lines. A software company used code. Every generation discovered a way to multiply human effort. Artificial intelligence changes that equation, because for the first time, the leverage isn't physical, it's cognitive. Instead of lifting heavier objects, AI helps people think faster, learn faster, build faster, and make decisions faster. Imagine two founders with the same idea, the same budget, the same amount of time. One treats AI like a chatbot, the other builds an entire workflow around it. Research, customer support, marketing, data analysis, product testing, all connected together. Both work hard, but one person's output becomes dramatically larger. That's the real power of AI, not replacing human intelligence, multiplying it. And that changes the definition of productivity. The future may not reward the people who work the longest hours. It may reward the people who design the smartest systems. Because in the AI era, success may no longer depend on how much work you do. It may depend on how much work your systems can do without you. The biggest winners won't simply use AI, they'll build leverage with it. And that may become one of the defining advantages of the next decade. 6. Reinvent or be replaced. Every skill we've discussed today depends on one thing. Think about the skill that makes you valuable today. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. What if that skill becomes irrelevant? Because history has a pattern. Every major wealth transfer rewards one group of people. Not the strongest, not the smartest, not even the most experienced. The people willing to reinvent themselves. When automobiles arrived, the winners weren't the people who mastered horses. When the internet arrived, the winners weren't the people who perfected fax machines. When streaming arrived, the winners weren't the people who built video rental stores. The winners adapted. And adaptation requires reinvention. Consider Netflix. The company began by mailing DVDs, then reinvented itself around streaming, then reinvented itself around content creation, then reinvented itself again for a global audience. Every stage required abandoning old assumptions. Most people think success comes from protecting what they know, but the future often rewards abandoning what no longer works. That's difficult, because reinvention feels like failure. It feels like starting over. It feels like becoming a beginner again. And most people avoid that feeling, which is exactly why reinvention becomes such a powerful advantage. The next decade may belong to people who can repeatedly ask, what if everything I know becomes outdated? and then adapt before they're forced to. Because the ultimate competitive advantage isn't intelligence, it isn't talent, it isn't experience. It's the ability to become a new person before the world demands it. Every great wealth transfer in history rewarded reinvention. And this one probably will too. The next decade. So what happens next? Nobody knows for certain. But history gives us clues. By 2035, AI assistants may become as common as smartphones. Small teams, even one-person companies, may create value at a scale that once required hundreds of employees. Routine knowledge work may be heavily automated, and the biggest advantage may no longer come from having the best degree, but from learning, adapting, and using new tools faster than everyone else. Some industries will disappear. New ones will be created. Every major transformation closes doors, but it also opens new ones. The challenge is recognizing which doors are opening before everyone else sees them. Because when an opportunity becomes obvious, the biggest rewards are usually already gone. The choice. Remember the two people from the beginning, the entrepreneur in Austin and the executive in the skyscraper. The difference was never intelligence. The difference was adaptation. One kept reinventing himself. The other kept defending a version of the world that was already disappearing. And that's the strange thing about history. It never announces a wealth transfer while it's happening. It only becomes obvious afterward, when people look back and say, the signs were everywhere. But by then, the winners have already moved. The businesses have already been built. The opportunities have already been claimed. The fortunes have already been made. So maybe the most important question isn't whether AI will change the world. It probably will. The real question is, when the next decade is written into history books, will you be one of the people who saw the future coming, or one of the people who only recognized it after it arrived? History leaves behind the same message every time. The future never arrives all at once. It arrives quietly, opportunity by opportunity, skill by skill, decision by decision, until one day people wake up and realize the world has changed, and by then, the wealth transfer is already over.